Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we're going to be diving into, I didn't mean to say diving into, that just happened, but diving into Below Deck Sailing Yacht. We've been off of sailing off for a couple of weeks, but we're back at it. So let's just jump into the episode. So, this is Below Deck Sailing Yacht, Season 5, Episode 7, My Super Sideways 16. Great. Daisy. If we kind of started the episode off with Daisy telling Cloyce, you need to up the ante, you suck at what you're doing, or you're not really sucking. You're just not doing what you can be doing, your full potential. But guess what, guys? He doesn't give a flying fuck what she has to say. He's just out here being like, I'm most sought after chef, or whatever the hell he said in the West Coast or whatever. I don't even know what he said. It didn't matter because you're serving store-bought cake to the guests that you warmed up and it was all mashed. Like it's just ridiculous. So yeah, Emma apparently was not woken up to dock the boat. And she obviously is going to be probably in her head about that, but she's really no help. We've seen her, how she kind of handles the boat and everything. But Daisy has to kind of be like, oh, maybe they say you're sleeping and they figured, we'll just let you sleep and we got this and it's fine. Later, when they're doing the not the preference sheet meeting, the tip meeting, Glenn literally says to them, great job docking. That was one of the best dockings ever. Let's continue doing that. And Emma's like, oh. Anyway, so with the tip meeting, they got $22,000. Probably could have been it's still a good tip, but it probably could have been a better tip if Cloyce did better because the food is the main thing for them. Glenn tells Cloyce, you need to do better. And it's with Glenn telling Cloyce he needs to do better that Cloyce clearly hears it and he's going forward with doing better. So with this part I'm going to talk about here is to add context to what I'm going to say next. So in the last episode, because obviously he didn't talk about it, Deanna ends up telling Keith about the kiss between Danni and Gary, and which obviously hurt his feelings. Deanna knows what the fuck she's doing because she goes up the steps. She's like, oops, she doesn't care anymore. And you know what? I don't blame her. Danni bothers me, and I'm going to get to that in a second. So in the current episode, him and Danni are talking, and he says to Danni, listen, you hook up with Gary. I don't want to be a part of a love triangle. So I'm going to exit left. And that's about that. I'm going to go to bed now. She's mad, big mad, and blames him for her decision to kiss Gary. I'm going to reserve my feelings on everything in a second when we see her talking to Daisy and Deanna, because I'm about to blow up on her in a minute. So with that, because she's so messed up and so pissed off with Keith, she ends up texting Anthony. Now, if you remember Anthony was the guy who was at that pool club thing that we had with, I think, 2 charters ago. And he was also from South Africa. That's who Anthony is. So she immediately texts him. I'm going to reserve. Let's continue. Danni tells the girls what happened with Keith. And she kind of says oh, he's being childish and insecure and whatever. And Deanna's just sitting there with the LOL face. She's not engaging. She's looking down. She's like, I know I started the shit, but at the same time, she doesn't care. And you know what? I don't blame her. But Daisy is like, okay, you're being a little mean because he kind of has the right. And saying, she kind of was saying how she has the ick because of it. And she's like, so you saying you have the ick is just kind of insensitive to him. You have to realize you kissed his boss and his roomie. So he's not going to overstep. And that's the thing. We have seen this in past seasons. We saw it with was her name Magda or Mags? And the guy she liked, I can't remember his name. And um he didn't touch her. He wouldn't touch her. He's like, nah, 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 you're hooking up with my boss. Like, I'm not going to go there. He wouldn't go there. So I respect Keith being like, I'm not going there. Even though Gary is like, shit, he's not going to go there. And I don't blame him. And her being all butthurt because he won't go there. Well, some people have some standards. Some people have morals about them. Sorry, unlike you. So here we go. I'm at the point now. Um, because the next thing I'm going to say will add to what I feel here. So I know Danny's young. You're gonna live your best life, but and again, there's nothing wrong with being flirty and wanting what you want and going after what you want. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to then understand that with that, you're going to make people uncomfortable. You're going to overstep boundaries. And you have to respect those people in respecting their boundaries. She says she doesn't like being rejected, but then don't make things happen that would cause you to be rejected, because Keith wasn't rejecting you. But because Keith isn't giving you what you think you want this constant attention from men, which I'll talk about that in a minute. You want this constant attention from men. And because you feel Keith isn't giving you what you think you want, and you think the grass is greener in the Gary side, so you kiss him. But then you have to then understand that some guys are not, Keith is a man. Gary's not a man yet. He's still a Peter Pan, in my honest opinion. He's 35 or 36, Gary is, or maybe 34. Maybe I'm not quite that old. But he's around the age of Daisy, and he acts like Danni. Whereas Keith acts more like he's mature, he's grown, and he's not going to put up with that kind of bullshit. He's just going to be like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to go there. I'm good. It's not that important to me to hook up with a coworker. Like, it's fine. Like, that's how he is. And she has to respect that. And getting mad and saying, oh, you're acting like a child, you're giving me the ick and this and that. And it's like, no, honey, no. He's not acting like a child. You are. You have the ick because how dare he have standards? Something you lack. You can't be into everyone that has a dick. I'm sorry. And I feel like that's exactly it. I feel like she will go to whoever has a dick and will give her attention. And that shows to me you have no standards. You can't be into everybody. You can't be into South Africa guy. You can't be into Gary too. You can't be into Keith. You can't be into everybody. There has to be some kind of standard, and you have not figured that out yet. And hopefully one day you will, but like, you haven't figured that out yet. And because you are just here, there, and everywhere, Keith is like, I don't know. And that's okay. That's him having respect for himself, which Gary doesn't. So it's just, it bothers me that she wants to push blame on Keith for him having standards and boundaries. And because Daisy is telling her about herself, she wants to get mad about it and say, oh, Daisy hasn't seen all of our conversations or isn't privy to everything, so like, butt out. But then why'd you tell her? You are thinking that these women are going to be on your side for how you're, no, because they don't act like you. And they don't understand why you do. They don't understand how you say you really like Keith, but then you will give attention to the guy at the Anthony guy, and then you'll go and kiss Gary. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I'm trying not to shame her in her journey through her sexuality, But at the same time, she is shaming other people for not just being readily acceptable, or sorry, willing to be what's I'm trying to say here? Not accepting her and her thing. But that's not going to be everybody. Not everyone's going to accept what you're doing. So yeah, it's frustrating to kind of see how she's acting with all of this. And you're grown enough to have some perspective and some understanding for other people. Because at least like Mags was the same way. She liked to flirt. She liked to do her own thing. You want to have sex, all the power to you. I liked that, but she still had standards, because even she could have gone back and be like, oh, I made a bad choice. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And she liked that guy a lot. And she made that known that she really liked him, and she fixated on him and still did, even though he was like, I'm not going there. So she still, you could tell Max still had some standards. This girl doesn't. And honestly, like, you're selling yourself short by not having some standards. Not like you have to have some, just even if they're minor standards, you gotta have something. And she kind of just doesn't. And it's the shaming part of it for me that I'm just all out on Danni. Don't shame him for, him kind of being like, I'm good. So, yeah. So let's move on to the next thing. Not harp on these people. Emma, we see, almost crashes the tender into docked boats, just sitting there minding their own business. And the thing is like, he's trying to explain to her how to drive this tender. He's telling her, stay the course, but she's not, I guess, staying the course. And she almost crashes docked boats. And Gary, after that whole situation, talks to Glenn and kind of says, she has no urgency. She almost killed us out there. She almost crashed the tender, which the tender has been through enough already. And like, she just has the sense of urgency, which is so true. She has no sense of urgency, and she wants to blame other people for the fact that she has not. Do you have nowhere to go? Do you have nothing to do? Like, it pisses me off too to see people have no sense of urgency, have like no desire to get their ass in gear when I'm here busting my ass doing stuff. Like, do you need something to do? Like, it's true. So he basically says, maybe just talk to her, kind of, figure, because you need someone who has a little bit of sense of urgency, or the desire to get their ass in gear. So we have the new guests coming on, and this is, we have minors here and stuff like that. We're celebrating a birthday. I think it's the Sweet 16. We're celebrating a birthday here. And we're unsure whether or not we've served minors. And Danny's like, listen, I had 7 flutes of champagne that was provided to her, I think, from Daisy. So I'm just doing my job, which I hear. I definitely get that. That would be on whoever did that. It's on them. And I think it was Daisy. So I do hear that. Emma is just standing around, not doing shit, to the point where one of the guests is trying to find a towel, because I think he was rinsing himself off, and he was trying to find a towel. Couldn't find a towel. She's just standing there, and Gary's like, oh, let me help you, and gives him a towel, while Emma is just fucking standing there. Guest walks off, and he says to her, like, are you happy to be here? Like, do you want to be? Because it doesn't seem like you're happy to be here. It's true. And she's like, yeah, like, why do you ask? And he's like, well, because there's no sense of urgency with you. Like, you yesterday, which we didn't talk about because obviously it was the previous episode. In the previous episode, we see Keith like putting the dock together, the floating dock together, and she's just standing there doing nothing while he's doing all the work. Just now, you see that the guest needs assistance and you don't help him. And she says, oh, well, I thought he knew where the stuff was. Even if he thought he did, it is your job to provide upscale service. You think the man, you still say, here you go, That's what part of being on a super yacht is about. Give the man a towel. And then he kind of says, well, I also see you milling around, either smoking or drinking coffee, this and that. Like, there's just that lack of urgency and initiative. And she says, well, I don't drink coffee. That is besides the fucking point, ma'am. I don't care if you're drinking coffee, tea, water, you're drinking something from a mug. So it's besides the damn point. You're mincing. What? You're, how old is she again? Like 35, grown enough to know the stupidity of mincing words. You're drinking something. You're smoking still. And again, this is coming from a guy who smokes, scary smoker. So it's just like, come on. So she kind of says, like, I'm asking for feedback. I'm not getting feedback, but now you want to give me feedback, because she's getting mad at him and giving him attitude. And I'm like, bitch, this is your superior. This is your fucking boss. And oh, I could never. You don't just talk back to your boss like this. You say, okay, I am going to take that information, the constructive information. I'm going to do with it as I please or whatever, and move along. You don't fight with your boss. What is this? What is this? Glenn, yes, is your top boss, but Gary's your boss. He's your department head. I'm confused. It's, yikes, man. She then complains to Daisy, who is like, yeah, like she's trying to be supportive to her in the moment, but in the moment, she's like, yeah, there's no sense of urgency. Like it's no initiative, which is something that you really need. You need to be self-motivated as well. These are things that you need to do this job, and she's not. She's lacking it. So Daisy isn't the one to kind of have your back in this situation, I think. But Cloyce is definitely putting in the effort to do much better with the service. Not doing family style dinners. Lord. But yeah, like he's definitely doing a lot better. Food was great. He's doing like art, man. Cake was baked in-house. So everything is going good. So the adults are going to the club, and yeah, baby. Okay. And the mom, I think it was the mom, does one of the most epic falls I have ever witnessed in my entire life, y'all. She lands flat on her damn face, and she's just lying there. She's just lying there. Like she's just lying there. That's the best falls for me, when you land like that and you can't even get up and recover. You're just like there. It was a freaking amazing, epic. She's fine, y'all, so I can laugh about it, but it's I was dying, but she's fine. And then the final thing that we see with this episode is the boat's about to crash into another boat. I don't know where this boat's coming from. I don't know if they're anchored or what. I'm assuming we're anchored, but obviously you can still move. And this boat is just coming out of nowhere, and Gary's like running. He's telling Danni, get Glenn. He's getting one of the fenders, and he's like trying to like whistle at the boat and say, "Hi!" They're about to crash, and that's where the episode ends. So we'll see how this turns out and what happens in the next episode. But that is it for the episode. Again, I'm just going to say that the next thing you guys can expect to get is going to be Golden Bachelorette. I'll probably get that to you tomorrow, because you're getting both these episodes as I'm recording them today. So yeah, that will be probably coming out tomorrow. And then again, as for the announcement that's been obviously circulating with the pod, is that we're going to be going on Christmas break from December 11th until January 15th. You are still getting episodes between that. And if you want to know what those are, you can head over to the socials. It's posted on everything there. Everything. So what to expect, schedule and everything is there. And if you want to actually just hear me say it to you instead of going to the socials, you can head over to the Toe episode for 500 Days of Bummer. It is on that episode in the beginning where I will be talking to you about everything to expect for the break. But that is it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps, every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.